This time on Woody's Garage we try to align sprockets. What a pain in the ass.
Well, look what we got in the mail today, finally. Jeez, these guys took like 5 days to ship these out, and then came Labor Day, which bumped it even more. But stop your bitching, they were the cheapest ones, and they look really nice quality. This is a, what was this? I forgot 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, that's a 12, and that's a 14, that's right. So this guy will go right from the clutch to the jack shaft, and then from the jack shaft to the rear sprocket, which is pretty cool. I guess I should see if they're the right size. And I have keys. I'm just not sure if I'm going to dig them out right now. Oh yeah, they're going to work just fine. It's just alignment. And we got to get the rear sprocket back on and figure out where these things are going to be. Sorry, I know it's dark. Really pouring outside tonight. Windy. But I can't help thinking about the people down in North and South Carolina with a hurricane approaching. Category 4 or 5. 4, I think, now. Anyway, back to the Rupp. Can't stay away. Right now, what I got is the engine mounted in those holes. They're just stationary holes and not the sliding holes, the elongated holes, so you can adjust it for chain tension. I may end up putting them over there. I think I probably will, because this is already kind of looking like it's going to make the sprocket stick out, and I'd like everything to be as tight as possible. So what we got here is a 12, and we're going to 12 to a 14. In my stash of crap, I was lucky enough to find a key. You know what was weird? When I ordered this thing up, I didn't even think about the 2 different keyways. Are they the same? I got the camera down here, but my head's way up, sitting in a chair. But, oh yeah. Oops, sorry. So that'll work really well. It has 2 set screws. It's a quality piece right there. Obviously it won't be there. It'll be more like there. I can already see, like, you know, I'd rather have it over. And I would also rather be able to adjust the chain to get the slack out of it. I was thinking before about putting some kind of chain tensioner on here, but why bother? So we're going to take those bolts out, remount the engine. I keep thinking about, like, do I want to use something else? I was thinking about throwing that red 4 horsepower vintage Briggs I have on here, but I don't think it's going to fit. The air filter is definitely going to hit the bar, and I think maybe the plug will hit the bar too. So I think we'll just stick with this little 3.5. I have bigger Tecumsehs, but I think this one's going to suffice, and it's pretty close to what was on there originally. So let's remount the engine and go from there. And there are the holes, in case you were wondering what I was talking about. There's the elongated slots. Where's the one over here? Don't even see it. I popped the engine off because I was weirded out, like, where was this other slot? I'm still kind of asking, where is this other slot? It's like they only want you to use 3. That's what we'll use, I guess. Okay, here we are with the engine not bolted down, but the bolts are in the slots rather than the holes. The 3 slots. And this is about what we get. This is a Tecumseh 3.5, as I mentioned. And chain looks pretty straight there. Maybe not perfect. And what it does is there's a little bit of a gap between the bearing and the sprocket. Now before I was thinking of running these collars in there just to kind of keep the bearing in place. Although they tapped in nice, you know, they're not going to move. So, you know, you're probably safe like this. Obviously we're going to lop this off once we decide what it is. And I'm not going to designate this chain to this side right now because it's the only length I got right now. And I want to keep it long for the other side, which is certainly longer. So, something like this, you know, with that kind of gap. No, with that kind of gap. That looks about right. There. But, at the same time, I'm wondering, I know I saw it mentioned someplace in oldminibikes.com, somebody talking about Rupp, the holes and the slots, but it's before I had a Rupp, so I didn't read about it. So I think maybe I ought to see what the advantages are. Now we've pushed the engine over to the right side, so it's kind of, maybe the weight's more over there. Gee. So I'm going to look into that before I, you know, do anything else rash. But we also got to pull a back wheel off again and put the sprocket on it. And I'm going to need some long bolts to mount the sprocket so that I can pivot it. If I bolt it up here, I want to be able to like have it on the screws but move it in and out just by hand and get the eye line between that and the jack shaft up there to see where the chain's going to lie. Right now that looks like that's once again, that collar shouldn't be there. It should probably be about as tight to the frame as possible, I'm thinking. Like, hang on, maybe like that. Can you see that sprocket up there? I can barely see it. I'd like to make it so that the screws on the for the rear sprocket are, you know, have the smallest spacers as possible. I don't want it sticking out. Right now it's looking like it's even a little more so than that. So I don't know if you can see that. I'm looking at the screen and my eyes aren't that good, so yeah, that's the deal. So let me mount up the sprocket. This is what I got right now. Back wheel's on, sprocket is just loose. Now I got a bearing in the middle of the sprocket, and if you notice down here, the sprocket is just about kissing the other sprocket there, and that's the space we have in between the mounting plate and the sprocket. So if you had a spacer in there, the way it is right now, the spacer would be about 3/8 of an inch or something like that. 3/8, half inch, whatever. So, looking down the line again, yeah, I mean, it's gonna work. Let's get the chain on it and see what it looks like. Okay, I got this light right in front of me so I can kind of see. It's funny how I don't trust my eyes when I look at things like this. But, you know, that's not a bad line right there. That front sprocket is right against the bearing and the jack shaft. And this back guy is out like I said it was. And looks pretty much like a straight line to me. Of course, I'd like to have a little give each way, but I'm really happy. I thought, you know, I didn't know where the sprocket was going to end up, if it's going to have to stick way out or what, which I didn't want it to do. You know, if I flip that front sprocket around, damn, I wish I could put some pressure on the front so that the chain wouldn't be slack like this, because it does kind of look like it's curved out to the right. So Yeah, it'd be better to turn the sprocket inwards, I think. Let me do that. Kind of hard to hold the chain tight and look down the line and everything. But I popped this bearing out of the sprocket so I could put the sprocket as close as I could to the wheel, which would require, as a spacer, maybe a couple of washers or nothing at all. Yeah, I think I'd like something a little behind there. But that is terrific because if I do that, I'm going to lose viewers here because lousy camera work and talking. But then I can get a bit more adjustment this way or that way with the sprocket turned around like this, inward. And I think that'll work. And I need to get some chain because this chain's not long enough for the back. But once I get it lined up close, I can cut it and use it for the front, so that part will be done. Then I'll have to get another length. This is, I think it's brand new chain. I think. That looks kind of dirty. I don't know. But I think I cut it off a big length I had for a motorcycle or something. Anyway, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to put on the sprocket. Attach it. Wheel off again. That is, I'm wondering if that bearing is driven all the way home. You know the way it sticks up like that? I got the socket there. I'm going to see if I can drive it in a little bit more. Well, as the Bruce Springsteen song goes, one step forward, two steps back. I was pounding it in. I broke its ass. Son of a bitch. And it's kind of weird. Now it's flush there, except for this one little piece here. Break that piece off and put the sprocket on. Yeah, I just might. Fuck. Sprocket on. I'm keeping that same bearing in there. Yeah, it's going to have to be replaced at some point. But, you know, maybe. You can see that piece there that didn't crack out. The rim kind of cleared it, which was kind of weird. You know, I think enough chipped off that it cleared it. So this is like flush right now, fairly tight. I put it on the axle and spun it, and it looks fine. It doesn't seem to wobble or anything, at least so far. We got that much screws sticking out of the back. I was thinking how wonderful it would be to put a lock nut on that, which we might do. I don't know. I don't think it'll catch though. Probably be right to the top of it. So let's mount it up and see what it looks like. Sprocket's mounted. From way back here, it seems like. Hang on. Yeah, it seems like I should probably do this shit off camera. I mean, it's hard to look at holding the camera. It looks like the sprocket's got to come out a little bit. Lots of reality setting in here. So I kind of wanted to clamp this down, set in the set screws, put in the keyway. And the chain's not going to be able to go nearly that close because it's not going to be able to, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a lip that sticks out. It's just going to hit there. So it's got to come out like at least this far. So that looks like it's probably a good space for this, with that butted right up against the bushing there, a bearing there. But that would mean that this in the back's got to come out a little bit with spacers. So I found another piece of chain too. I forgot that I had, so I might even have enough to do the whole thing, except for this is old chain. So that piece over there at least is an old piece of chain. So this is probably a pretty boring video, I'm thinking. And I'm not even sure if this is the right chain. Well, Sprocket says 41 chain. Got a little back and forth on it though. And this chain, oh look at this. This looks like it's thinner than that. Hey, I think I might stop for the evening. This is kind of painful. Okay. Pretty exciting. I got my chain for the Rupp, so I can finally line stuff up and everything. I just, it's bulk, you know, I gotta cut it to length. It came with 3 master links, or it said it did. I only see 1 there, but hopefully there's more. And I'll show you my progress. So that's the old piece of chain there. And we got the engine slid all the way back. That way, as the chain stretches or whatever, you push the engine forward and it will tighten up. So we're going to use this one. I think it's the same size chain. And when we find out the right size, we're going to cut out one of the links with the grinder. You sure don't spare the lube on this chain. I'll tell you, it's a greasy mother. This looks like about like what we got, and you can see how much sag is in the chain. But this, if I take out this link, let me see if we're pointing and looking at the same thing. If I grind out this link, then that's where the master link can go. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to grind. There you go. I've done this before in other videos. You just grind off. Use the grinder and you grind out one of those nubs, and you just use a punch and punch the rivet through, and then you're like this. Let's see if we cut it right. And the only thing we got to do here is move the engine up, and then we'll be able to determine exactly where to put this. And once we do that, we'll be able to cut off this extension, which I'm dying to friggin' do. But okay, let's do the other side, the other way, the other sprockets. Oh yeah, baby. Well, fine. It's so nice to see the teeth line up for a change with the sprocket and the width be correct. Instead of like lots of slop and stuff. It makes you happy to buy the right thing, I'll tell you that. So next will be like the lineup and stuff. And by the way, these adjusters, I wasn't very familiar with them, but they there's a low point right here. But if you go this way, it starts coming out again. And if you go this way, it starts coming out again. So that's kind of weird. So it's like right about there. And that's where we set it to cut the chain. Doesn't seem like a whole lot of adjustment here. But now we can tighten that up. And, you know, if I spend like an hour on this, I could actually get to ride it. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to do everything fast. I want to enjoy it, actually. Well, good morning. It's... Today it's rainy, and it's like the end remnants of Hurricane Florence. It came all the way up from North Carolina, or the Carolinas. So it's a good day to work. So last night I went to Home Depot. I got this stuff for spacers for the Roma Nova. And I had ordered these, a bag of 5, since they don't have them in stock. These are 5/8. Also for that wheel, I'm going to have to cut one and use a 2-piece one for inside of the hub of that Manco wheel. And we're going to try to get the Rupp straightened out today. The chains, I don't know, they don't seem to be rolling that good, and it's kind of pissing me off. So we're trying to get the spacers right. I bought this box of washers since I wanted to get ones that are totally even. To use as spacers, because right now you see that there's a bit of a gap. I don't know if you can see that. I know I keep doing this and it's hard to see, but you turn this wheel every once in a while, it just wants to bind up, and I don't really know why, because the chain looks pretty straight. So we got some work to do today, so shut up and start doing work. Here you are back on the Manco wheel. And what I need to do is I need to create a spacer that goes in between these wheels, the wheel halves, so that when you tighten down on the screw, it doesn't crush these bearings. The best measurement I got was from there to this side is 29/32, a fraction of an inch. So what I'm going to do, these guys, the spacers that I got, unfortunately I couldn't get like that's just under 2 inches is what it comes out to be. These guys are 1.5 inches, so I'm going to have to use this and another one. I'm going to measure out 29 30-seconds times 2 on 2 of these that are going to be taped together, and then we'll cut them with a pipe cutter, and hopefully they'll come out right. So here we go. So using that metallic tape again, I just put these two together. It doesn't matter, I mean, once it's in there, it's not like structural, the tape, it's just going to extend the piece so that it can sit inside like this. So now we need to measure it up. Well, for cutting purposes with the pipe cutter, our tape didn't hold up, so we just stuck it in the vise and the soft jaws, and we'll take it off and then we'll have to tape it again. Well, I ended up needing the hacksaw to get through this stuff. It is thick. That pipe cutter's not made for this. So, you know, we got some rough edges. We'll try to smooth it out with a file and see what we got for length. I hope it's good. Okay, well, there we go. It looks about right. But still, the reason I need to tape this together is once you put the hub together, that thing will just fall kind of loose, and if it falls in 2 pieces, it's going to be very difficult to get the axle through. So we're going to tape that up. I have to put a little bit of metal tape around the bearings in order for them to fit snug, so I'm going to do that next. Yeah, we tap those in with a big socket. They fit really nice. I mean, they go in just the way you'd want them to go in. Nice and smooth, and it's tight. Perfect. We'll do the other one. I also wiped out these with alcohol since I had hit everything with a light coat of oil before, so that they're nice and clean. Out with the old tube. In with the new. You'll see that this one, see, it sticks out the side there, where the other one came right up in the middle. Okay, let's put the wheel together. Fun. Well, I was just thinking how it would be really nice to have a nice set of screws or nuts and bolts. Put this wheel together, and I got 2 of those, like one of these, and you know, you want them to be strong looking. At least looking, since you don't really know. So I got to look around for some. You'd think there'd be nothing to it putting these things together, but what a pain in the butt. Just because the nuts and bolts are so deep inside. And, you know, I didn't find a full set, but these will do. I just put some air in the tire. It's not fully out to the bead yet, as you see there. It's probably going to go pop and make me jump a fucking mile or something. But that'll seat. We'll make sure the 3 bolts are tight, and we'll think about the sprocket. Obviously, we got the air mounted on the opposite side of the sprocket, so we can get at it. I don't like already how it's off a little bit. Shit. So I think we're going to let the air out and try it again. It's kind of easing its way to the bead to be seated. I'm sure it will after a little while. Here's a sprocket I got, made for the Manco wheel. Got it from the old mini bike warehouse. It seems like any part I bought from them has always been quality, and you know, you don't have to worry about like it not fitting or something. They always do. The only thing I got to think about here is these bolts I decided to use. Will they fit? Yeah, they friggin' will. What do you know? Will they be long enough? Yeah, jeez, this could be a nightmare. Okay, kind of didn't plan on that. Let's see what we got here. Actually, I'm not sure. Okay, this is what we got here. I just screwed the bolt in. That would be enough right there to hold the sprocket, at least I think. So we can bring it out, you know, that far, which is much further than it would need be. So that's good, but we need to determine, you know, where that is. And then we got to make some spacers for underneath here. And did I already mention this? I think I probably did. I got this stuff from Home Depot. I guess it's like 3 feet, for like $8. And where is it? And it fits very snugly, so I'll just have to cut like 6 of these when I figure out the right length. You know what I mean? You get much tighter than that. Well, you probably could, but they will work well. Give these a bath, a little lube. Sitting there, shaking around. Look at that blackened oil it's already. Spray lube. Oh crap, it fall right off. Just let it sit. That ultrasonic cleaner. So we also got a bearing for the sprocket, which I think is definitely a good idea for support and stuff. So the thing I'm wondering, okay, you get it on the bike, you know, okay, you got it out about like this, you figure out that like, okay, that's a good spacing. How do you measure from the sprocket bottom to the threaded hole that distance once it's on there? By screwing in one of the bolts, maybe, right? As soon as it touches the threads, you pull it out, then you minus the thickness of the sprocket. Yeesh. And then you make 6 of that pipe exactly the same spacer. This is going to be tedious, I think. Oh Lord, I see a whole bunch of aggravating work ahead of me here. It looks, I mean, the wheels, I think, about centered. What do you think? And that's how far out the sprocket would be, which I don't really like, or maybe not that far. I'm having a really hard time like looking down a chain and seeing if it's straight. I mean, if you put a straight edge on it, I don't think it would matter because the chain's straight. It's just in reference to the clutch and the sprocket. Another thing I got to do, I guess we should make sure that the back wheel is centered first, and that would require the spacers on this side and on the other side. So that should probably be done first before I'm worried about the chain being straight. But I mean, the further this sprocket gets away from the wheel and the tire, the more vulnerable like the spacers and the bolts are. But I mean, there's 6 of them. They're pretty damn fat. It'll probably be okay. I just like to worry a lot, I guess. But cutting the spacers is definitely a pain in the butt, since like that's, you know, it's going to have me cut a couple more spacers up into pieces, which I hate doing. But I mean, that's a lot of space. But it looks cool. So here's a way to determine the metal. I got this cheap caliper plastic, but it's like my favorite one. You use that piece down there and you stick that in until it hits the bearing. Bottom it out and then compare it with the other side and work until you got it in the middle. Then take that measurement and make a spacer, of course minus that. So that's what we'll do to get it in the center. So that's the measurement right there, minus that. That's the thickness of the dropout metal. And what we got, believe it or not, with that one I cut for the inside is that. But we got to take off that. But it's, you know, it's pretty close, so we're going to grind. Geesh, that much off? That's a lot to grind, but better start grinding. Well, I lied again. I didn't use the grinder. I cut it off with a hacksaw. Yeesh. Doesn't look too bad though, almost square. We'll square it up on the the belt sander over here, and then we'll see how close we are to the measurements. They better be right. This stuff really sucks to cut. It's some substantial stuff. Can't really touch that thing. It's hot as heck. But hey, how about that? I think that's going to be good. At least good enough for a mini bike, right? And to keep them together as a pair, like one, I just put some more of that tape on there. Might take it off later, but it helps, you know, putting it together, not chasing down two, just one. Okay, what I got now, it looks like it's off by about 1/8 of an inch or less. I mean, how many of you would just go, fuck it, close enough? Well, probably all the sane people. Let me try to grind off a little bit. Yeah, I got it. And so it was 1/8 off, so you take a 1/16 off of like one side. And now we got pretty much matching sides. I don't think you could tell the difference. Okay, next, let's look at the chain alignment again, I guess, because we certainly can't make the spacers yet. Okay, once again I'm in the predicament of like trying to see the alignment. I mean, we're close. Let's say we're close. That wheel is, the right hand side spacer is tight. That's about what we got for width. It's like a little more than I'd like, but no, I guess it's not too bad. You know, I can't have the sprocket right up against the tire, but the chain isn't long enough, so I'm judging by like the top of the chain. We're off the Nova Roma and over, on the Roma Nova, over to the Rupp. I don't know, when things get tough I just run away. But I do want to look at this one. You know, this alignment stuff would be a lot easier if you could get it up to eye level. You know, you gotta lie in your stomach. Like, look at this stuff. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that the chain is correct for the sprockets, because the way it's binding up, I just don't know if I'm off or whatever. Also, these adjusters here are kind of screwing me up. I'm going to take them off, but I got to pull the axle in order to do that, just so that they're not, you know, out of adjustment, making the wheel this way or that way. So I'm going to do that. Clutch and jack shaft. I mean, I'm moving this by hand. Now it feels like there's one point or another that feels tighter than the others. Like right here feels a little tight. Why is that? That's got to be alignment somehow. That's loose. I don't have it tight. Oh, this alignment. I mean, maybe my eyes are just so bad I can't really see. This looks like this is too far in right now. Hang on. So I'm laying a square ruler against a surface and trying to determine, you know, how parallel it is. But even this thing's got a friggin' bow to it. It's just, everything's a pain in the butt. Another thing that I should really do before things start to get put together is I might as well lop off this part that I won't need anymore, because I'm within the parameters. It's not going to move any further than that. So I think I'm going to cut it off right about there. Yeah. Yeah, cut with a hacksaw again. A little bit of grinding, a little bit of sanding. Looks decent. Okay, let's put it back in if we can. I don't even know if I'm going to upload this stuff. It's so boring. Like, how do I get this right? But right now, it's almost like I had planned. Sprocket, collar, the bearing, and it looks pretty darn straight like that. It seems to roll really nice, too. It's the back wheel. It's a real bitch. I think we'll leave that loose. We won't screw the Allens down here, and we'll screw around the back wheel. Okay, for the Rupp sprocket, I just drilled out all these washers to 5/16 so that I can use them as a spacer. I got 4 for each if I need that many, but I think we're going to start with 3. Water's creeping in the door. It is just pouring over there too. Anyway, so I drilled all those out, and then I find out that, hey, quality control. Some of these are thicker than others. Another thing I didn't do is some have a little burr left on them. So I got to try to get that off and match some up so that they're right, because it was way off. Different heights, so the sprocket was going back and forth. Jesus. Just take them on my stack of different value sandpapers and find one that's about a 600, I think, 800. Ooh. Okay, down dirty, something like this. That's fine. Let's take them and do this. Get the burr off. Okay, sprocket's straight. Not rolling too good, but it's always something. So I want to get nuts on the end of these bolts down here, but it's pretty tight. But there's also room for a lock washer, which is really good. So it will have to come apart again, but it's nice to see that it's tracking straight anyway. I think we might have it. This is how the sprocket is up front. Turn like that. Little gap there. I actually have a little sliver I cut off of that spacer that might fit in there like perfect, which I'd like as well, although it's something I can bind, I'm sure. But it seems like we're straight. Nothing's kinking up, you know. You're not getting any like stiff feeling links or anything. Feels good. Brother, this was a pain in the butt. Okay, cool.